The position of the shoulder blades affects our posture, slouching. What is it? It's when both shoulder blades move forward and at the same time the position of the rib cage changes and the kyphosis in the thoracic spine increases. Why does this happen? The main reason is an imbalance between the muscles that stabilize the shoulder blade from the back and, when they contract, bring the shoulder blades toward the spine, kind of connecting them. And the muscles that are located here in the front, these are the two main muscles, the pectoralis major and minor. When they contract, they move the shoulder and the shoulder blade forward, but they also participate in the movement of the arm. But the pectoralis minor muscle specifically causes both shoulders and shoulder blades to move forward like this. And we need to create a balance between these muscles. When we see this kind of position where the shoulder is shifted forward, sometimes there's a difference. On one side the distance is a bit greater, on the other it's a bit less. This also indicates that there are differences in muscle tone and muscle bulk, and we will need to take this into account. If the shoulder blade is slightly raised, we need to check if there is an imbalance between the muscles that lift it up. These are the upper trapezius muscles, which lift the shoulder blade, and the latissimus dorsi and the lower part of the trapezius muscle. The serratus muscle is also important. It is often weak and underdeveloped. And the balance between this part of the trapezius muscle and the pectoralis major muscle. When the pectoralis major muscle is better developed, this part of the trapezius lags behind and the shoulder starts to shift toward the more developed pectoral muscle. This happens very often. On one side, it occurs more on the side of the working arm, while on the other side, it happens less. There are also cases when one shoulder is shifted forward because of limited movement in the lower back. For example, the quadratus lumborum muscles are shortened, which interferes with rotation. And that's why the shoulder blade starts to shift excessively forward to compensate for this rotation. It also matters the rear and front parts of the deltoid muscle. When our front deltoid is better developed and the rear is weaker, the shoulder and arm can shift and rotate toward the stronger muscle like this. So, first, we assess the mobility of the vertebrae in the thoracic spine. For this, we use this kind of mobilization technique. Here, we go over each vertebra and check there is a difference in the range of motion. Like this is better on the side if there is a difference in the range of motion. Very often, the upper, this one here, well, starting from about the 6th or 5th thoracic vertebra, the upper part of the thoracic spine, it moves a bit worse there. The range of motion is much less than in the lower part. But you also need to compare the range of motion between neighboring vertebrae. Sometimes it happens that, for example, right here, let's say, well, something like that, the 7th and 6th vertebrae move with a greater range. Then one vertebra, as we see, lags behind much more in terms of range of motion. And the next one also moves with a greater range. You can assess the movement from different angles. For example, try shifting it here, look at how it moves from this angle, and then from another angle in the opposite direction. We also look at all this based on the patient's complaints. So if something is bothering the patient, we examine that area in more detail. And here we also check the costotransverse joints, how they move, and whether there are any fixations between the vertebrae or between the vertebrae and the ribs. Fixation is where there is either no movement at all in that area between the vertebrae or between the vertebrae and the ribs or between neighboring vertebrae, or the movement is very limited. And we will also take this into account later during the treatment. That is, with this first pass over the thoracic spine, at the same time, we're also assessing the areas where mobility is more limited. We stay there a little longer, and at the same time we increase mobility there. This technique is called mobilization, in this case of the thoracic spine. Then the same thing is done on the costotransverse joints. We check each of these joints to see how it moves, comparing the mobility of some joints with others. That is, each person has their own range of motion, their own normal range, so to speak. So we compare and find, for example, areas where movement is good and compare them with joints where movement is lacking. This way, we can understand where we need to increase the range of motion. There are several ways to increase the range of motion. You can start gradually by working on the muscles, eliminating trigger points there, using exercises to address them, and generally working on the soft tissues around the joints. You can also work on the joints themselves from different angles. The main thing is that these angles should match the axis of movement of the joints themselves. And another method, a bit more dramatic, but, well, actually sometimes even more effective, is manipulation. This is when, in a single movement, we increase the mobility in a certain segment, in a certain spinal motion segment, E, often with a characteristic sound. That's it. Some people are afraid of it, while others actually like it. Usually it happens with the sound. Manipulation, or in osteopathy, is called thrust technique. Well, it's a thrust technique with that kind of click. Mobility is restored between the vertebrae, in this case, or other joints. You can do that too. But you also need to understand why this is done, because increasing mobility should have a specific purpose, not just for no reason. So, if we need to, let's say, to increase the mobility of a certain part of the spine in a specific area to relieve another part, or if we have some fixation that could be causing nerve compression, or if we need to restore mobility in a certain joint. But we select this specifically for each patient, depending on the age and various related conditions. If there is severe osteoarthritis, of course, it's better to do this gradually, or if there's pain. In this area, we have the trapezius muscles. The lower part of the trapezius, right here, is often underdeveloped. Additional exercises are prescribed for it. This is the middle part of the trapezius muscle, and this is the upper part. Here we can work it from different angles, from the side or from underneath, working on the trapezius muscle itself, from above, like this. So you place one finger, the other hand on top, and work it through like this as well. Just work it point by point along the length of the fibers like this. Various fascial techniques require our hands to glide a little bit. And here along the muscle, we can also work on it at different angles. We can also work on it at different angles. Here we can use different methods like this. We can work on it from this angle. That also depends on what we want to achieve. Right here, next to the spinous processes, like this. That is, we can do this along the fibers, right along the lower edge of the trapezius muscle itself, slightly shifting it over here. That is, the muscles themselves can also become fibrotic when the fascia of neighboring muscles practically stick together and fuse, and this fibrosis also has to be removed because blood vessels and nerves pass through and between the muscles. With various areas of tension and spasms like this, everything can get compressed, and it can be the cause not only of pain but also of restricted blood supply. For example, problems with blood inflow are not that common, but problems with blood flow due to various spasms happen often. Under the trapezius muscle, we have the rhomboid muscle and the rhomboid muscle. To reach it, we need to go a bit deeper here, a bit deeper through the trapezius, but after we've worked on it, we'll be able to reach the rhomboid muscle. It's also convenient to reach it. I'll show you now how to work on it in a side-lying position. But along the spine, we also have the back extensor muscles, and here we can work on them as well. So this is also a deeper kind of work. All of this is already located inside the trapezius. Also from this same position that I'm in now, you can work on the extensors at this angle. So we sink our fingers next to the spinous processes, kind of inside, and then we work a bit from the side on the muscles like this. The more different angles we use to work on the muscles, the higher the chance that we'll be able to reach even deeper trigger points, areas of tension or fibrosis, and work them out and restore them. After we've worked on the muscles, we can go over the joints and vertebrae again, this time with a greater range of motion. Also do these kinds of mobilizing movements directly on the spine. From this side, when we stand by the head, it's convenient to use this part of the hand to apply pressure here. Also on the costotransverse joints, starting from here. This is done well on one side and on the other side. Then onto the vertebrae themselves through the spinous processes. But here you need to understand how much you need to increase this range of motion. Select the amount of pressure and use different angles of application. That is, we can also make the movement from here. If you need to go deeper, you place one finger here, another finger, and then put your other hand on top. By applying pressure like this, you can affect the costotransverse joints or the joints between the vertebrae. From this same position, if, for example, we notice that there is some kind of fixation, there are various ways of mobilization and manipulation. We can also do this for the upper part of the thoracic spine, starting from here. From the side lying position, there is also very good access to work on this entire area. Here, we can also assist by moving the shoulder blades. So it's like I can see the shoulder blade. I roll directly onto my fingers a little bit under the shoulder blade. Right here, I can also work in from different sides and treat the shoulder blade, including this upper part where the muscles that lift the shoulder blade are. From this same position, I can work in here too. So I can work on the shoulder blade from all sides. This is how I work it out from here. Then, also using, by moving the shoulder blade, I can kind of affect the muscles more deeply. And here with the same movement, what can I do? I can work on the superficial trapezius. If I need to go deeper, I use the shoulder blade to assist a bit. That reduces the tension in the trapezius and lets it relax, and I can go a bit deeper there, reaching the rhomboid muscle and the back extensors. And I can also use this same movement to affect the joints themselves, as well as the costotransverse joints and the joints between the vertebrae. So I can do the mobilization of all these joints from here. Then on this side, here we have the scapula. Here too, you can work the latissimus dorsi well from all angles. You can do it with this kind of movement. You can do it from here as well. You can also use all these fascial techniques. For example, you can use them when you need to increase the range of motion in the shoulder or to stretch the side somehow. So all of these things. Fascial techniques can be used to stretch all of these or to work more locally on specific areas. Then from this same position, you can also successfully work on the serratus muscle right here. There are also a lot of trigger points there, but it's also worth working on the serratus muscle when we're restoring mobility, for example, of the shoulder blade or the shoulder joint, or if a rib isn't moving, causing local pain here, or if there's some intercostal neuralgia, or for some reason we specifically need to work on the serratus muscle as well. It turns out we do. Now, the pectoral muscles from this side too. Also on the side, it's convenient to do this because here, if we can change the position of the arm, for example, move the arm slightly forward, if we let it hang down, the pectoral muscle also relaxes a bit, and it's already easier for us to reach the pectoralis minor here, because if it's tense, if you do it from the back, sometimes the tension in the pectoral muscle doesn't let us reach the pectoralis minor. So you can work on the pectoralis minor through the pectoralis major like this. At the same time, you also work on the pectoralis major. So all these spasms that are here cause the shoulder to shift forward, and you can work on all those spasms very well from the front, from this side. That is this clavicular portion. Very often there are issues, some adhesions between the anterior deltoid and the pectoralis major muscle. You can also work through this groove from this side. Of course, you can get under the pectoralis major muscle here, reach the pectoralis minor muscle, but in principle, this is not required very often. More or less, you can work through this area, not all the way through, but like this through the pectoralis major. And lying on your back also works very well. And you can work on this groove between the anterior deltoid and the pectoralis major muscle. Then you can target the pectoralis muscle itself with more precise actions, along its entire length if needed. Here, check what condition it's in. Next to the sternum where it begins, this is its lower part. First, check if there are any areas of tension there. Go along the entire length of the fibers. Here, also work on the pectoralis minor muscle. You can use various methods like this, right from here, like this. And from here, you can also work on the anterior deltoid and also on the pectoral muscle. You can also use different ones. The techniques are gentler on one hand, but on the other hand, you can also work the muscles quite deeply. Here, you need to use your hands a bit, let them glide, and from here, like this, one, along the fibers of the muscle itself. This way works really well. All right, it's time to get to work.